In this video, I will be doing my response to my friend Rhiannon and her tag, Wanderlust decks. Let's do it! It is evening time right now, so the light is quite low. Hopefully I will have enough to get through this video. My cat is pawing to get out the door, even though she just wanted in. Excuse me while I perform the role of cat butler. They're such fickle beasts. I am currently fasting for the rest of the evening. I started at 5:30 and I will be fasting until tomorrow morning sometime. It's warm. I'm just not overly hungry, and I figured this is a good time for just giving my system a rest and just having a bit of a fast, so that's what I'm doing. However, I do have some peach Waterloo. This is my new favorite flavor of theirs. I love the watermelon too, but the peach is my new favorite. Hitting the spot. I've been filming vlogist stuff a lot today, and I'm really hoping I don't just start randomly interjecting things for that in here, so hopefully I can keep myself together. So this tag was created by my friend Rhiannon. Her channel is Rhiannon Rambles and Readings, and she is also the creator of the Oracle Obsessed group on Facebook. Go check that out if you are so inclined. She came up with this tag called Wanderlust decks, and it's so fun. It is summer. She was currently kind of feeling the travel bug a little bit, and so she came up with this tag with 13 prompts, each prompt representing a different type of traveler and a few characteristics to go along with each one. Super fun. The prompts are great. I have a different deck for all 13 prompts, so I will be featuring 13 decks. That is a combination of tarot and oracle. I could not really choose just one or the other, so I'm gonna do both. So let's get going with these super fun prompts. Prompt number 1 is the Backpacker, a deck that's adventurous, fun, and versatile. And for that, I've chosen my Spacious Tarot. This deck is no stranger to my channel. I have featured it often. It's adventurous to me just because it takes you to various landscapes that are outdoors. It is fun because it's straightforward, but it's also has this air of sort of lightheartedness for me, but there's a depth as well. And then it's versatile for me because the minors are very pippish, and you can go a bit broader and deeper with your interpretations. And the majors are non-human, which I love. I love symbolic, more symbolic majors. Closest thing to a human featured is in the Death card. And this flower here is also on the box. I love this Death card. It's one of my favorites. Great deck. It is independently produced. I'm really bad and didn't tell you who it's by. Carrie Mallon, and I can never remember this person's first name here. Oh, the light's funky. My fern's in the way. It's casting some shadows. There we go there. Carrie Mallon has a YouTube channel. At least she did last time I checked. So you can go check that out. I'll try to remember to link it. Is her name, this person, is her name Annie? I think it might be Annie. The guidebook is in my room because I was using it. I'm not going to go get it. I think it might be Annie. That's prompt number 1, the Backpacker. Prompt number 2 is the Cruiser, a deck that's relaxing, luxurious, and enjoyable. My Cruiser deck is the Oracle of Roses. In my Coffee House decks tag, This was my pick for my herbal tea prompt, and that prompt was a deck that takes things down a notch or helps you unwind. And so in that way, it is quite relaxing for me. This is a deck I just like to take out and look at it. It has some ancestral energy for me because it reminds me of my grandfather, who has passed on, but he grew absolutely spectacular roses. He was known for his roses. Roses for me are also the symbol of Venus. Venus is a very important energy for me. Venus rules my first house, my ascendant, which is Taurus. So Venus is my chart ruler. This deck I use in a multitude of ways. I can use it for ancestor work and archetype work. And it's just gorgeous. It's lush and pretty and luxurious. So that is my pick for the cruiser. This is a rock pool deck by Sherilyn Darcy, who is very well known for flower and botanical decks. There are lots. So that's my cruiser deck. Prompt number 3 is the Road Tripper, a deck that's spontaneous, fun, and full of surprises. I tried to be really kind of quick and intuitive with my choices, but this one I actually kind of went back and forth a little bit between this deck I chose and another one. But the deck I ended up choosing for this prompt, the Road Tripper, is the Cosmic Tarot. This is an AGM deck, and it's distributed by US Games. I also have the bigger guidebook that goes with this deck, which I highly recommend, by the way. If you have this deck or are interested in getting some expanded material, that guidebook is really good. This is always on my list of decks that surprise me, just because it reads in ways that, for me, that I didn't expect. For example, this tarot is one that is a go-to for me for career and work readings, which is kind of counterintuitive because it's the Cosmic Tarot. It has that kind of cosmic, otherworldly element. You know, work is a very mundane kind of topic to read about, but for some reason, this one does it for me. Oh, I have trimmed. It does come with white borders when you buy it fresh and new, and I did edge mine. The light's low, so I don't know if you can see. I did edge mine in navy blue Sharpie to kind of pull in that blue from the back, and I like the way it turned out. And this deck also has movie tie-ins. Here's a perfect example. And the expanded guidebook has more information on that. That's another great death card. So yeah, this one always gives me something that I don't see coming. And I love it for that. So that is my pick for prompt number 3, the Road Tripper, Cosmic Tarot. Prompt number 4 is the Explorer, a deck that's curious, daring, and open-minded. For this prompt, I chose my tried and true and trusty Way Home Tarot. This deck is a bit of a curiosity because it's not a straight up, I love that Chariot card, it's one of my favorites of all time. It's not a straight up Rider-Waite-Smith based deck. There are hints, but the minors are very pippish in nature, and there's also, this deck is also kind of known for having a bit of, shall we say, social commentary and kind of exploring imagery that might be a bit triggering. So this is an example that's often brought up. I have used this deck in my court card series, which I still need to finish. I have the Queens and Kings left because the courts are presented very elementally for me, and I read the courts in a very elemental fashion. There's another one that's kind of one of those daring. And the open-mindedness for me comes in with interpretation, because there are quite a few ways you could go with a lot of these cards. And so if you keep sort of an open mind and a broader perspective, your readings from this, at least in my experience, can be extremely profound. Love this Nine of Pentacles. Love it. Love it so much. The majors in this deck are also highly symbolic, like they are in the Spacious Tarot and this Moon card. Oh, yes. This deck is an independently produced deck. Last I checked, it is still available. It is through Everyday Magic, I believe is the website, and it is by Bakara Wintner and Autumn Whitehurst. And the book, WTF is Tarot and How Do I Do It, is sort of a companion book to this deck. It's sold separately. This deck does not come with the book, but that's a great book, and I have that, and I work with it too. And it breaks the court cards down by families, which is a really great way to help new readers to tarot kind of acclimate themselves to the courts, which can often be tricky cards at first. It's very down to earth and real and practical, and their connections can easily be made there. So I like the way that they present the courts in that book. So that is my choice for prompt number 4, the Explorer Way of Tarot. Prompt number 5 is the Tourist. Popular, accessible, and well known. I immediately thought of RWS, but I swear I use that for prompts like this. I swear I break out the RWS for everything. So I decided to break out an RWS base deck, but not the original. And the one I chose that has been kind of near and dear to me this year, particularly late spring, early summer, is the Aquarian Tarot. This was one of the decks I featured in my deck Reconnect for 2023, my VR to Logan from Larkin Legend. This was one of the decks I chose. I might do a revisit to that tag because I think I just might. It might be a good topic to revisit. But this is just the newer printing from US Games. Very easy to come by. Getting a vintage copy of this, the 80s? I think it's the 1980s edition with no copyright and this back, but that covers the whole thing with no white border. That's the edition I'm after, and I think I want to try and get one in 2024. But in the meantime, I'm happy with this one. This was my what I call coffee table deck for a while. I often will just keep a tarot out on my coffee table and just sometimes get it out and look through. And this was that deck for me for quite some time. And that I did do a couple of readings with it too, but just that process of flipping through it regularly was extremely, it gave me a lot. More than I anticipated. This deck is well known. A lot of people know what it looks like. This is by David Palladini, and it is a US Games deck. And like I said, this one is the new printing, widely available. So, yeah, I like it a lot. This deck has been kind of special to me this year. That is my choice for prompt number 5, The Tourist, which is the Aquarian Tarot by David Palladini. Where's the US Games? And published by US Games. Prompt number 6 is The Local, a deck that's authentic, familiar, and close to home. This one was easy for me. Immediately, I thought of my Hedge Witch Botanical. This was my very first divination deck of any kind. I did a whole thing about that in another video. It was my, actually I did it in 2, my formative decks video and my VR mashup video. This deck got featured pretty heavily, and I went into more detail about my journey and process with this deck. There's the backs. It is very glossy. This is by Ciolo Thompson, or Shiloh. I still don't know how to pronounce her name, and I have not found out. Published by Llewellyn. At the bottom, the little moon. So the reason I chose this deck for The Local is because this creator also has done the Line Strider and the Otherkin and the Winter Seer, and what's the Lenormand she did? Scrying Ink. I think that's still only indie. I don't even know if you can get it anymore. This was an indie deck as well, and it was the indie printing is different. Backs are gorgeous. But this creator is a what I would call a local regional, to me, creator. Lives in Western Washington, which is where I live and am from, and these plants are in my everyday life for at least a part of the year, the majority of them. Foxglove, see them everywhere. Saw them on my walk this morning. Fern, I've been a bit obsessed with ferns. This year I have them all over. My dad has kept me stocked in ferns. But, so this deck is just very special. Local regional artist, and plants that I encounter in my daily life. Very much reminds me of home. And the guidebook is great. And it's in color. And there are recipes and seasonal applications, and this book is just, there are also tarot associations. So if you are new to tarot and you maybe want an oracle that you can kind of make those connections with, this is good. So that is my choice for prompt number 6, the local. Which botanical oracle. Prompt number 7 is the Jet Setter, a deck that's glamorous, sophisticated, and worldly. This was easy for me as well, and I just don't think anything else would fit the bill for me for this other than the Yonasa Yos. This is the 6th edition, yes. Ooh, my fern. This is the 6th edition, medium. My box is signed. There have been many different variations on this deck. Some have been colored and stylized a little bit differently. I have this one, I suppose, is what I would consider maybe the more traditional coloring for this deck, and it has these green backs. I would really like to get the 4th edition eventually. The 4th edition is the edition that made me kind of fall in love with this deck, and it's the imagery is exactly the same, but it has some sentiment for me, and I would maybe like to get the 4th edition eventually. But this tarot just has an air of glamour. The creator is Galatian, I believe, and the text is Galatian, so it is worldly in that regard. It is loosely based on Jodorowsky's version of the Tarot de Marseille, and it is so pretty, and that might make it seem like it's superficial, but this deck, this tarot is really profound. It has one of my favorite judgment cards. So yes, no other deck for me could fill this prompt except this one. So this is my choice for the Jet Setter, glamorous, sophisticated, and worldly. Yonasa Yos, 6th edition. I believe the 7th edition has different coloring, I think. I've seen it around and it looked different. This edition had a small, I think it was small, medium, and jumbo. The jumbo was like enormous, but the medium is just the perfect size, and it's that tall, kind of skinny size that I absolutely love. Love it. Prompt number 8 is the Pilgrim, a deck that is spiritual, meaningful, and transformative. And if I would have done this prompt maybe even just a few months ago, maybe just 6 months ago, I would have picked something entirely different. But now, the deck I've chosen for this prompt is the Wild Unknown Archetypes. I've had this deck for quite some time, and to be honest, it sat on my shelf for quite a while. It was one that I would take out and look at because it fascinated me, but as far as just like reading with it, I really didn't. The guidebook is amazing. Yeah, if you're into archetypes at all, I think the guidebook is worth the price alone. But then you just get some cards. A lot of people are put off by the round cards. Don't mind them at all. I'm going to talk about this card specifically. For the season of summer, I felt really called to draw an archetype card from this deck to work with, in addition to a few other cards that I'm working with like for the entire season, all Oracle. And the card that I drew is the Destroyer. Seems kind of dark and grim, but it's been so appropriate for me for this time. And it's been a reminder that things have to die or end in order for new things to come into being. If you're constantly creating, and nothing is being released or let go or coming to an end, eventually there's no more room for creation. So things have to end. And I've had a lot of endings this summer. A lot of beginnings as well, but the endings for me, I'm still very much working through. And this card's been very profound. I've done a lot of deep work with this card and this deck in general in the past few months. Blingy diamondy backs that a lot of people despise. I don't mind them. The artist is Kim Kranz. The publisher, I believe, is HarperCollins. Same creators, the Wild Unknown Tarot and the Alchemy deck and the Wild Unknown Animal Spirit, which is another deck I absolutely love. I like this archetype deck because it doesn't just have people archetypes, it has place archetypes and object archetypes as well, because archetypes can be more than just people-based. You know, there are things, places, concepts that can be archetypes that are somewhat universal and can be found represented in cultures all around the world and dating far, far back. I like this deck for that. I've had a lot of growth in the past few months, and this has really been a facilitator in that process for me. So that is why I have chosen it for the Pilgrim. Spiritual, meaningful, and transformative. Totally. It comes in this round box. It's one of those box within a box situations, and I just keep it out of the more square box, and I keep it in this round box. I like the round box. Prompt number 9 is the Nomad. Free-spirited, independent, and adaptable. For that one, I dug out my double-decker. I'm just going to show you one of them, though, because the other one's out of print. My double-decker Arcana Tarot playing cards by Dead on Paper. This is a full tarot with mostly RWS-inspired majors, courts, including the page, so page, knight, queen, king, and the minors are playing cards. So it is adaptable in that if you just want a set of playing cards, you can just take the majors and courts out and have a set of playing cards. If you want to do a majors only reading, you can just take the majors out. If you want to do something with the courts only, you can do that. If you want to do like a Lenormand style reading, but you don't have a Lenormand deck, but you know what the playing card associations are, you can do that as well. So you can do a lot with this. The majors are so pretty, and the pips are pretty too. I mean, for playing card pips, they really are lovely. This is the light edition. I have the dark edition as well, but the dark edition I believe is out of print currently. The light edition was still available. And sometimes they run sales, and they're really good sales. And this deck is reasonably priced to begin with. It's like 30, I think it's 30 US dollars. And it's really beautiful, high quality linen playing card stock. Really lovely. So this is a deck that's just versatile, and it just kind of does what it wants. Because you can make it so. I think it was it the 21 Tarot Questions tag? VR to Lisa. I think there was a question about what is a deck that you wish existed, and if I remember correctly, I chose this one, but in a larger size, because the artwork is so incredible. but it's a small, and normally I don't want a tarot in a bigger size, but since this is playing card size, I would love to have this in like standard tarot size. I would even love to just have the majors in standard tarot size, and I could just work with those on their own. But yeah, I wish they would do that. I really like using these together for like light and shadow layered readings. I have done that, or conscious and unconscious. That's good too. And I've also used this extensively with my work with human design. If I do a body graph spread, I use the dark deck to represent my defined centers and the light deck to represent my undefined centers. And it's really great just because of that visual contrast. And I like that a lot. Nomad, Arcana Tarot playing cards, dead on paper. Light edition is still available, I think. It's getting dark. Prompt number 10 is the Culture Vulture, a deck that's diverse, educational, and enriching. And for this prompt, I have chosen a deck that I don't see really ever. And I think it's interesting that I don't really see it ever because it's a very interesting deck. And that is the Oracle of Ascendance by, oh yeah, this is the name I can never pronounce. That one. This is a mass market US games deck. Widely available. It's been around for a little while. Love this deck because essentially it's a deck of sacred symbols. And I love that. And they're diverse sacred symbols. In addition to my archetype card for the summer, I drew a card from this deck. I wanted a sacred symbol to work with, and I ended up getting the sun. So here's the astrological symbol for the sun. This was really appropriate in many ways, mainly related to human design, but yeah, this has been profound. So I drew the sun. The sun and the destroyer. Light comes from the dark. Very important lesson for me this season. So that's that card. And then here we have some sacred geometry. There are zodiac cards. There's Virgo. Some well-known symbols, the affinity symbol. Chakras are represented. Poem symbol. Sephiroth for the Tree of Life. They're all there. There's a card for each one. The elements. Cross. Lots of different types of symbols from lots of different cultures. Like Sigil of Avalon. Kundalini. This deck is really great if you just want something to contemplate that's sacred, which is something that I, as a practice, I often like to engage in. The one thing that I think was a bit of a missed opportunity is the guidebook. It's not overly in depth, but I think it's a good springboard if you want to go start there and then go investigate research on your own. I love this deck. It's simple. It's lovely. I like this earth. I love the earth card. For me, those elemental symbols are right there in the colors. This is a deck I just don't see, like hardly ever. The guidebook has oracle meanings, but I think this would make a spectacular like altar deck if you work with planetary magic, or if you work with the chakras, or you work with sacred geometry. I think a lot can be done there, and that's primarily what I use it for. I use it more for longer term contemplative practices. And I'm going to leave my sun card out because it's still summer. Just the fact that I drew the sun, which is the ruler of Leo, and so many things have gone down in Leo season. It's like it's off the charts what has gone down this season for me, as far as, you know, good things, bad things, scary things, emotional things, just all the things. I put the destroyer card away, but this card with the destroyer card, this has kept me in line emotionally a lot this season. So I'm very grateful to this deck, and I'm leaving this out. And there's the good book right there. Like I said, it's not a whole lot there, but it's a good springboard if you want to research on your own. Oracle of Ascendance, US Games, mass market, widely available. And this is my Culture Vulture. Prompt number 11 is the volunteer, compassionate, helpful, and altruistic. And I had two that I'm not presenting two, I'm just presenting one. But I had two that I was like, the one that I did not end up choosing that I could have easily was the Good Tarot by Colette Baron-Reid. And Jenna Della Grottaglia, I believe, did the art for that one. That tarot got me through my dad's hospitalization with COVID. Seriously did. But the deck I ended up choosing for this that I wanted to feature is the Hughes Tarot. This deck is out of print. Sorry. But this was a US Games deck, and it is by Susan Hughes. And I have the larger companion book to this deck as well. That I highly recommend. If you have this deck and you love it, I highly recommend getting the companion book, the big one with the blue on the cover. This tarot often will just give me that reminder that everything's gonna be okay in its own way. And usually tarot doesn't do that. Tarot for me says this is what the energy is. Get your butt in gear and do the thing. Stop complaining. You know what you need. Why are you looking at me? But this one's a little bit softer, and so is the Good Tarot as well. But this is an RWS based deck. I like it because the minors, particularly in the swords, can go in a little bit of a different direction. The minors aren't as straight up RWS, which I like, especially in the Three of Swords. No stabby stabby heart, which I like, because that's not how I read the Three of Swords. I can work with it, but the inherent meaning that's attached to that minor, that's not how I see it at all. And so it's just like, I see these great RWS based decks and they have the stabby stabby heart. Pagan Otherworlds, I'm looking at you. About broke my heart with that one. Such great pips in that deck. And then there's the stabby stabby heart up at the top, and just like, why? But this deck does a great job with that. And others that I can think of that do well with that, the Mara Loon is one. Terror of the Abyss by Anna Turian gives you choices. This death card, I'm getting off topic. This death card is gorgeous. Death card is my card of my sun sign. I am a Scorpio sun, so death is often a card I look at closely. And the fact that the pelvic area is a butterfly is everything. It just has a softness and a loveliness, and it just wants to help, and I love it for that. That's a great hermit. Not always fond of people-y majors, nor am I always fond of the celestial body cards, so the star, the moon, and the sun with faces like so. But this one I don't mind so much. I don't mind the moon either. The moon card in this deck, did I pass it already? I actually work with that card for an entire year. I drew it on my birthday, and I worked with it from that birthday to my next birthday. And it was so appropriate. Here it is. Face in the mood card, but look at that. I will never forget, it was not long after I drew this card, the full moon after that, I looked outside and I wasn't home, I was somewhere else, and the scene that I saw, minus the face and the moon, but the positioning of the trees, it was exactly this card, and it was just one of those moments that you're like, the moments I live for, the synchronistic moments that I live for. That I live for. This is my volunteer deck because it just wants to help and it's good at it. Hughes Tarot. There is another version of this deck, I believe. The box is a different color. Is it blue? I think it's blue. And I don't exactly know what the differences are, if there are any. If somebody knows, comment and tell me, because it might be something I need to investigate. That's my volunteer. Prompt number 12 is the Solo Traveler, a deck that's introspective, self-reliant, and empowering. No question. The Tao Oracle by Mahadeva Padma, and I can never remember the publisher. I'll put it right there. The Tao Oracle is a deck of hexagrams, and there are 64. And if that sounds familiar, that might be because you have been exposed to the I Ching, which is an ancient divination system. It's been around for a very long time. And each card, 64 cards, each card represents a hexagram. So this deck can be used as an oracle as far as just following the keyword, but it can also be a visual representation of the hexagrams. And so it can be sort of self-contained in that way because it is a system in visual form. It's independent. It can do that. It can be that visual representation of the hexagrams of the I Ching for you. And the artwork is gorgeous. So it's interesting looking at if you're familiar with human design, the human design, the Rave mandala, it's all structured around the I Ching. The I Ching is like the skeleton of the Rave mandala in human design. Each hexagram corresponds to a gate in the Rave mandala. And there are some parallels to the traditional I Ching meaning in relation to what the gate represents, but not always. But like this 24 return, that's a big right timing, regeneration. Yeah, gate 24 is known as the gate of return. So there are some parallels here, but others not so much. Let's see what else we got here. Gate 14, prosperity. I have that defined too, twice. Wealth, good fortune, success. Yeah, that kind of transfers. The gates that I don't have defined, a lot of them I'm not as familiar with. Gate 23, splitting apart. Yeah, 32, duration. Duration is a keyword. I think continuity. Yeah, continuity. They Raw use continuity a lot more. I have this gate defined 5 times in my body graph. It's also associated with the fear of failure, which is appropriate. Can be used as an oracle with just the key words. And then the guidebook is really great, and it breaks it down further into the lines and what the lines represent. If you're familiar with human design, you know how important the lines are. You can use the lines in an oracle approach to using this deck. You can use it to represent the hexagrams. So it has a lot of possibility, and it's just beautiful. Like I said, the guidebook's really good. Tao Oracle, Mahadeva Padma, and once again, I will have inserted that publisher because I can never remember what it is. That's my solo traveler. Prompt number 13 is the Dreamer, imaginative, creative, and visionary. And for this, I have chosen a deck that I put in my pass box months ago and have subsequently taken back out because I can't part with it. In that video, I put 3 decks in my pass box. I took 2 back out. 1 is still there. The deck that I put in my pass box subsequently pulled back out because I can't let it go, and that is the Enchanted Map by Colette Baron Reed. This is Jenna Della Grottaglia art, I believe, as well. Pretty positive. Hey, house deck. I have the edition. If you have the edition with the blue box, you might be like, what the heck is that? This is the older printing that has these backs, glossy cardstock, and the parchmenty borders. I looked at the borderless edition and contemplated it, but I was like, no, I would miss this one too much. And even if I had both, I don't think I would use the borderless one because I'm bonded to this one. I find this oracle really effective for anything related to creative projects or life mapping. It's practical, but it has that sort of ethereal backdrop as well. This is the card that made me get the deck. And this is a concept that has been making its presence known to me that I feel like I need to work with, and that is the concept of the spirit of place. It's been a thing. I have a feeling that's coming as far as me investigating that. But yeah, I saw this card and I was like, take my money. I don't often do that, but with this one I did. There is a book. She did write a book. I think it was called just The Enchanted Map. I don't think it has a separate name. But it's like I think it's more of like a workbook. And it's kind of a complement to this. This deck has a guidebook. It has its own guidebook. And the guidebook's actually really quite good. But, yeah. I just couldn't let this one go. I had to pull it out. I pulled the Oracle of Mystical Moments out too. And I left in the Wisdom of the Oracle. That one's still there. That one was just like, no, you can move me on. This one was like, take me out. That is my choice for the Dreamer. My OG glossy AF edition of The Enchanted Map by Colette Baron-Reid. And that is all of the prompts. That was such a fun deck. Thank you, Rhiannon, for creating it and for putting it out there and inviting us to do VRs. If you have a channel and you have not done a VR, I highly encourage you to do so, and I will link Rhiannon's original video in the description box. I'm going to finish my Waterloo and put all this stuff away. I love doing these tags, these big elaborate tags, but I don't like putting things away. It's like going shopping. I love going to the grocery store. It's like a hobby for me, but I hate putting groceries away. Don't like it. It's necessary. So I gotta clean up my mess. So until my next video, take care and be well.